On Nationwide this evening, the talents of our craftsmen and women. In Tullamore, we meet one of the country's best-known silversmiths and see his striking creations. And the glassmaker who polished up her craft in the United States, but who has now come back to Ireland to shape her career in Temple Bar.
We're coming to you today from the National Crafts Gallery in Kilkenny City, and we're here to meet some artists who have travelled here to take part in an interesting exhibition which is visiting our shores. It's called the Wild Geese exhibition, and it brings together many of the top craftspeople from the United States, all well known for their work in America, and they each have something in common. They're all of Irish descent. That's just a flavour of the lovely work on display here, and we'll be having a look at some more during the course of the programme. Now, the whole exhibition is organised by the Crafts Council of Ireland, and Vincent O'Shea is the exhibition's programme manager. Vincent, it's an unusual kind of an exhibition for the Crafts Council.
It is. We launched a series called Wild Geese, the Irish in whatever countries that we're going to go to, and America is the very first country that we've gone, the Irish in America. We wanted to honour the diaspora, to bring them back to show the excellent craftsmanship, and America is a big focus for ourselves, so it's made a lot of very useful contacts for us.
And it's nice to be doing it, I think, this year, isn't it, when we celebrate the 400th anniversary of the Flight of the Earls, where it all started.
Exactly, and as it happens, we're going to tour the show to Letterkenny this year, Letterkenny Arts Centre, who, as you know, has a big celebration for the Flight of the Earls. So it's the Flight of the Earls and the Wild Geese all in one package.
And what's your impression of the work that's on display here?
Well, I mean, it's stunning work. I suppose that's the one simple explanation for it. We know that there's amazing craftsmanship in the United States, and we have it here, and it's nice to see that connection. We've got some of the top craftspeople in the States who are widely collected and are in major museums, including the Metropolitan Art Museum and museums throughout the United States. So it's great to see this work here.
And what's been the reaction of Irish craftspeople to, let's face it, people coming in on their patch?
Oh, they're very happy because we're going to go in on their patch. We're heading to the States. It's a major focus for us over the next 3 years. We do a number of shows in the States and have exhibited widely. And in some ways, that's how we know, that's why we have this exhibition, because we've met a lot of the artists over the years out there. Irish craftspeople, you know, it's partially to see what the market is like in the States, what the competition is like, but to network. We've had a conference where people spoke about their work and how to access markets and galleries in the United States. So it's very much sharing, there's no competition.
Evoking the theme of the exhibition is this sculpture in forged steel. It's called the Wild Geese, and it's the work of John Boyd Smith. John, where are you from?
Savannah, Georgia.
And what would be your Irish connections?
I had an ancestor who came from Antrim County in 1804 to America. He was a gunsmith.
Ah, is that why you work in metal?
Yes, I inherited his tools as a boy.
And when did you start doing actual artwork?
Well, I'm 59. I started when I was about 15, and I'm self-taught with my ancestors' tools, so that long.
Mm-hmm. And do you take part in a lot of exhibitions and shows and things?
No, this is my first. I'm an architectural metalsmith. I build gates and railings and chandeliers for private residences throughout the United States. I've never had a gallery show.
But these now are on the grand scale. You've got this one, the Wild Geese, which is very beautiful, and you've also got a lovely table as part of the exhibition as well. Tell us about the table.
Well, the table is called the Low Country Table, and it depicts the flora and fauna of the Savannah area.
And is that something that's pretty special to you, the flora and fauna?
Well, I've been doing natural themes all my life, flowers, birds, animals.
They are, as I said earlier, on the grand scale, so presumably they're very expensive. So these gates and tables that you do, they must be for, you know, pretty well-heeled people.
Yes, I've worked for a number of billionaires in the United States.
Have you done work, say, for famous people that we would know?
I have worked for famous people. I've worked for the actress Demi Moore.
What did you make for her?
They were doing a movie in Savannah, and I just made some simple iron sets for background pieces.
I see. And would you, you've done work for billionaires. Are you a billionaire yourself?
Oh, no. I just work for the rich. I'm not rich. I'm comfortable.
The curator and indeed the inspiration behind this Wild Geese exhibition is the silversmith Kevin Dwyer, a man with very strong Irish-American roots. He was actually born in the States and has come back here to live. Geraldine Harney went to meet up with him and to have a look at some of the incredible work he's produced over the years.
Just outside of Tullamore is the home and studio of renowned silversmith Kevin O'Dwyer and his family. But Kevin is not originally from Offaly. Indeed, he is not from Ireland at all.
Well, I was born in Lindenhurst, Long Island, New York, and my dad and mom decided to move back. My dad was from Tipperary and decided to move back to Ireland. And so we arrived when I was around 14 years of age and built a home in Cashel in County Tipperary. And there I went to the CBS school there and then went on to study at Waterford Institute of Technology and qualified in biochemistry.
After graduating from Waterford, Kevin made his way to London first and then headed back to the US. There he trained to be a silversmith. Along the way he met his wife Adele, a musician. They both decided that Ireland was where they wanted to live.
Adele and myself moved to Dublin in 1986. And Adele took up a position with the National Symphony at that stage. And so I set up my workshop there, and it just suited us at that stage. And we had both our children were born in Dublin. But about 10 years ago, we decided that we'd like to move out into the country and give up my children the same opportunity that I had living in Cashel when I was growing up. So we started looking around various parts within a catchment area of about 60 miles of Dublin, and we found this beautiful place just outside of Tullamore in the Townsends of Durham. And so we purchased it and we set up our studios here. Well, I mostly work on unique pieces. They're very much of my own personality, and I have a great love and interest in prehistoric art right up into and then into contemporary architecture. So I kind of play off a number of those elements. I can use very structured pieces and then very whimsical and flowing forms. So all the work that I do is all handwork. So it starts off as either silver ingot or silver sheet, and then the pieces are constructed, they're hammered, they're raised, they're shaped into the various forms. So it's fairly time consuming, and you know, you're working with heat and you're working with the metal, and it is a process of just shaping and forming, and a lot of patience tied into the actual work itself.
Kevin's work is varied, from teapots to candlesticks to sculptured pieces to women's jewellery.
My jewelry collection has evolved over the years, and they're very simple sculptural forms. They are all about light and the reflections of light, and very three-dimensional in the way that they work. And a lot of times they are the prototypes for much larger pieces. You know, I will start developing some ideas, forging out some forms that will actually turn into much larger pieces, more sculptural pieces.
As you would expect, Kevin's pieces are not just sold internationally, they have been snapped up by several museums.
Yeah, my work is internationally, it's shown quite a bit. I have galleries that represent me in the States, in Chicago and New York, and in Vail, Colorado, and places like that. I have a gallery in Dublin that represents me now, the Ablana Gallery on Bagot Street, which has a nice collection of my work. But I do a lot of exhibition work. I'm invited to show at a lot of exhibitions and touring exhibitions as well. And have some really wonderful museums that now have a series of my work that have followed my work over a number of years.
In addition, Kevin has created some wonderful pieces for some special people.
I've been very lucky in that I've had some great opportunities to make some beautiful pieces. Probably the one that I think about often is when President Mary Robinson asked me to make a special piece for the inauguration of Nelson Mandela. And that was a wonderful forged candelabra in which I forged two pieces that came into one candlestick, and that whole idea of the nation coming together. And that was presented by President Robinson. But I've also had opportunities to make work for King Carl Gustaf of Sweden, a beautiful coffee service for him, as well as a number of museum pieces that have been commissioned over the years. And it's always great to have that type of opportunity.
Kevin O'Dwyer is now one of the leading silversmiths in the world. Just last month, the New York magazine Irish America chose him as one of the top 100 inspirational Irish Americans. And after you see his work, well, it's no wonder.
Congratulations are in order because in this hot off the presses edition of Irish America magazine, Kevin Dwyer is numbered among the top 100 best and brightest Irish Americans. Kevin, well done. Congratulations.
No, thank you very much.
What does that mean to you?
It was very exciting to get that type of recognition, especially from the Irish America magazine, because they recognize people over a number of years, both in humanitarian, the arts, in all different areas in the Irish, in the Irish American community.
Now, you're the curator of this Wild Geese exhibition. Where did the idea come from?
It's been on my mind for quite a while because I've exhibited extensively over in the United States for years, though living over here, and I've met a number of Irish American makers, of really high quality. So when I had the opportunity, when I was talking to Vincent O'Shea here, the gallery director, and we were talking about curating a show, I had said this would be a fantastic show. So it was a great opportunity, to expose the Irish to this Irish American craft work.
And what was the reaction of the artists in the States when you suggested to them that they might come back?
They absolutely loved it.
Did they?
The enthusiasm, nobody said no, and they all got very excited about it. It was a great opportunity for them to actually participate in something where they have a connection. Many of them have never been over here before, but so it gave them an opportunity as well. As I was saying, like 16 of the 20 actually arrived over here for the opening. So it gave them a great excuse to come over here and to kind of connect with what's, their diaspora, that whole side, yeah.
One thing's for sure, there's plenty of movement among craftspeople between the United States and Ireland. Dermot Peavoy went to meet an Irish woman who worked for a while in the United States and is now plying her craft successfully in Temple Bar.
The glass has been well melted in the main furnace and the gathering irons are truly well heated in the glory hole, all in readiness for a day's blowing in the hot shop of the glass department in the National College of Art and Design. It's located in the old Powers Whisky Distillery in Dublin's Thomas Street. Teacher, glass artist and sculptor Caroline Madden is arriving to give what will effectively be a masterclass. Caroline started to study glassmaking here before completing her studies in England and the United States, where she subsequently gained a reputation over 14 years as an artist and university lecturer in glass. She has returned, at least temporarily, to her old college on a teaching contract. Her object today is to recreate this piece of glass sculpture inspired by swans near her old Leitrim home. It was originally created for the Wild Geese exhibition of glass being held in Kilkenny.
What I wanted to do was get into working with blowing glass in a way that it was more about the craft and enjoying the process and not competing with something that could be made by a machine in 10 seconds.
Indeed, there is nothing quick about today's process. It starts with the first of many gatherings of glass from the furnace on a blowing iron. Caroline will then blow a small amount of air through the iron into the molten glass. The bubble she creates begins to form the interior of the sculpture. She then begins to shape the exterior using a damp newspaper.
The New York Times is good, or the Financial Times, because there's no coloured inks and they burn off clean. And then just using that saturated with water, we just shape up the glass. I keep adding glass on until I have enough glass, enough mass to make the size of the piece I want. And then I continue to blow the shape out. All right, Valerie, go ahead. A little bit of air, please. Soft. A little harder now. A little harder.
Eventually, after much gathering, blowing and shaping and a lot of heat, the basic shape of the sculpture is complete and Caroline begins to attach little gatherings or bits. This is a frenetic process requiring the help of several assistants and journey after journey between the bench, the furnace and the reheating chamber or glory hole.
As you see, it's kind of like a dance there, as you see them walking around, turning the poles, and even watching their steps, watching where their feet so they don't back into anything.
It's notable that all those working in the hot shop today are female. This would be unusual for the industry in some parts of the world.
Normally you don't find women work in the hot shop. They normally work in the cold areas, like cold working and painting on glass in the Czech Republic, where there's a good tradition of glass. And also in Venice, where there's another tradition of glass. Normally it's all men. It's very unusual that you find this many women. But Ireland and the States are alike in that matter. You get women working in glass.
The team must labour consistently and rapidly to keep their work going and the glass hot. As the sculpture nears completion, there must be an underlying anxiety lest too much heat or too little or some other mishap would destroy their fragile product after putting in so much time, cost and effort.
You hope those things don't happen. You just stay really focused, and if it happens, it happens, you know.
A lot of work goes into it and it can all go wrong and all your work is wasted.
Yeah, we call those the floor models.
The floor models.
Because they usually end up smashed on the floor when they drop.
At the end of this process comes the time to separate the near-finished sculpture from the blow iron. The gloves are heated at the furnace, a line is scored in the glass, then with a gentle tap the near-finished sculpture comes away. But much work still remains to be done in the cutting and grinding shop. This is truly a crafted product.
Good job. Thanks. Thanks, Maggie. Good job. Well done. Thanks. Do you want to appreciate it? Thanks, it's great.
In her work in America, Caroline Madden has also been involved in designing large sculptures for public spaces. She was one of the 2 designer team for a massive sculpture in a Center for the Performing Arts in Jacksonville, Florida. She carried out this project with her students at Jacksonville University.
And the students and I got together to design a piece that was site-specific, that encompassed like what the Performing Arts Centre was used for. So it's for music and dance, and so we wanted to put something together that actually enabled people to enjoy something visual in the space, because it was a big empty space.
Caroline says that many of her Irish students end up living overseas, mainly in America, largely because there are few facilities for them to make their crafted glass designs here. She'd like to see a public access facility where graduates could go to blow and cast glass. She'd also like to see the Irish glass industry more involved in helping her students. Although Waterford Glass, for instance, helps the college by providing broken glass to be remelted for use by students, Caroline feels that there is more the company could do.
We still have to develop that tie where Waterford take on young Irish designers and have that kind of internship. I think that's a dialogue that has to be approached, and hopefully we'll get to that sometime this year and have young Irish designers working for Waterford.
Caroline Madden sees herself primarily as a teacher, but believes it's important for her students that she should continue to practice what she teaches by working as an artist. She may yet decide to return permanently to Ireland to live, teach and sculpt. If she does, she'll surely make a major contribution to the Irish glass tradition.
I think it's safe to say that the artist who's responsible for this is very conscious of his roots. It's called 9 Potatoes on a Book, and the man who made it is Sean O'Mealy. How do you pronounce your name, Sean?
In New Orleans, I grew up saying O'Mealy.
O'Mealy.
But after meeting a few people in the pub, Who I might be related to, we might change the name to O'Malley.
O'Malley, which is the O'Malley, that would be the Irish
O'Malley.
pronunciation for O'Malley. Okay. Is that where you think your ancestry starts?
It's a fine question. I hope to get back to Ireland and research this more, but we might be from Mayo. We might be related to Grace O'Malley, which is a great story, whether it's true or not. I'd like to tell people we're related to a fine Irish terrorist.
And do you know, Sean, when did your family come from Ireland over to the States?
We came over during the famine.
Ah, so hence the inspiration with the potatoes.
Yes.
But what about the work that you have here? It's all wood and very colourful. What's your background?
Well, I have a background in toy invention. In the US market, a toy inventor can make a handsome profit if they can invent a toy concept that the toy companies would produce and market. And if that product, that toy, does well in the marketplace.
Well, this is very colourful. This is a chess set, yes?
It's actually just a very free-form thing. It's just very colorful. It's about relationships, from shapes to colors to positions and that sort of thing.
And you've other examples of your work here as well. It's almost like, I don't know, how would you describe it, the black and white?
That's a fine piece to try to describe, because I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means, but it's this idea of one thing becoming another thing with sort of a smooth
So
transition.
shape and form is very important to you.
And as well as color and pattern.
There's a distinctly Irish, Celtic even, look to Pat Flynn's jewellery. Pat, were you conscious of that as you were designing and making these pieces?
Yeah, I think vaguely so. I mean, also African work, work that I saw, actually a friend had this piece. It was actually made from a artillery shell from World War II that I was always sort of inspired by that piece. But they do have those kind of references and Viking work as well. I mean,
yeah, well,
kind of pre-Christian Viking work.
And your goblets as well. I mean, they're reminiscent of what we might see in our museums.
Yeah, you know, I refer to them as being beakers, so they do have sort of references to
My
that.
goodness me, you'd see that in many places in Ireland. Where do you work out of, Pat?
My studio is in High Falls, New York, which is above New York City.
And your Irish ancestry?
Came from Cork.
I see.
Originally, yeah.
I see. And do you sell your pieces in a jewellery shop, or are they, you know, kind of museum pieces or art?
Well, they're mostly sold through galleries. I have 8 or 10 galleries in the States primarily that represent my work, yes.
And this is like a torque. Oh my goodness, it's very heavy. Tell us about this piece.
Well, it's the black material I'm working with is pure iron. It's the earlier processes are almost akin more to blacksmithing. I mean, the work is, it's worked hot, and then it sort of transitions to more goldsmithing techniques where it's a much smaller scale and much finer sort of details. But yeah, it's sort of a kind of bridging those two fields, kind of blacksmithing and goldsmithing.
Almost all of the exhibitors here at the Wild Geese are part of the collection of the Racine Art Museum, which is just north of Chicago. The director of the Racine is Bruce Pepich. Bruce, what's the importance of a collaboration such as this for you?
Well, for me and for many Americans, our ancestors come from somewhere in Europe. Many of us are fascinated with our original heritage, and we're very interested in international exchange, further communication, making connections with people in countries where our family members came from, and also countries where our family members didn't, because we just love the idea of Europe and its culture. This exhibition is the first, I predict, of an interchange that will take place between Ireland and America. We're interested in placing American artists' work here in Ireland, but also having the Irish come and exhibit in America, giving your contemporary crafts artists from Ireland greater exposure in the American marketplace.
And what about your Racine Art Museum? I was fascinated to hear that you have fine art and then what we would call crafts side by side. Is that part of your philosophy?
Yes, we have one of the largest contemporary crafts collection of any art museum in America right now, and we are a fine art museum. We treat craft as a fine art and show ceramics, fibers, glass, metals, and wood alongside contemporary painting and sculpture. It's all made at the same time. We want to show people how those works are, what they have in common, rather than how they're different.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed our visit to this Wild Geese exhibition. By the way, it continues until June, so if you find yourself in Kilkenny, you should definitely go and have a visit. That's it from us for this evening. We'll be back with you on Wednesday, the usual time, 7 o'clock on RTE1. With Sin on the Henya of Wirren, Iowagriff.
And on next Wednesday's Nationwide, the man with the golden trumpet celebrates half a century in the music business. Power to the people. We meet some of the men and women who ensure that the power is there when you turn the switch. And would you have thought it, knitting gets an image makeover with people of all ages now taking to the needles.